What's up, guys? Happy Monday. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. So today we're going to take it, again, a little bit lighter. This past weekend was my birthday weekend, so while there are some things that I've been kind of keeping an eye out to make videos on, I just want to keep it a little bit lighter, even though once I actually get into explaining what this kind of is, it's light, but it's not at the same time. But a couple weeks back, or I guess like a month or so, almost 2 months ago now, I made a video called This Movie Is So Bad, the Studio is Censoring Reviewers. And it was all about this movie called The Haunting of Sharon Tate, which had come under heavy fire both from like critics just for being bad and from, you know, Sharon Tate's own sister for being horribly insulting to her sister's legacy, and just kind of what was happening to some of the reviews that were being put out there. So I thought it would be kind of fun to not necessarily do something super similar, because sadly I don't have currently, there probably is a lot. Actually, there is! People were making videos about this really horrible movie, and they're actually getting contacted by like the directors or the assistant directors to have the videos removed if the reviews are bad, because they're saying they're violating their fair use laws by how like parts of the movie that they're showing. Okay, so I do actually potentially have a story I can tell, but this is a different story. So to kind of introduce some of you to this topic, for those of you who don't somehow know, because I oftentimes don't shut up about it, I was actually press at this year's Sundance Film Festival. Overall, it was an incredible experience, and other than the Mormons, Utah is a really beautiful place. But one of the movies we caught was just extra wild, both due to just the subject matter of the film itself and just the surrounding scenario of the movie-going experience. So just to kind of give you guys a quick rundown on how the movies work at Sundance, they are all independent films. Obviously, some of them have bigger names. So for example, like Late Night that just came out that has Mindy Kaling in it and a number of other larger actors, and the Extremely Wicked movie that has Zac Efron. But because these are independent films and they're just being submitted to film festivals and they're not actually ready for wide release, a lot of them don't have official ratings, meaning that you will be watching movies that span across a wide variety. Like, we saw movies that are definitely going to get R ratings, and we saw movies that are definitely going to be fine with like some PG ratings. And that's what was so weird about the fact that when we went to see The Nightingale, which is the movie we're going to be talking about today, they asked for ID. Now, before I get into this story and a bunch of you say, "Oh my God, you're stealing a story from Let Me Explain. Oh my God, you're stealing your content," I actually saw it with them. This is me in a picture that's on his other main, the ATZ show Twitter. That's me. This is me in this video that's on the Intercut podcast channel. This is me in another video on the podcast channel. And then this is actually me in those videos, shouted out at the end of that video that he just made, talking about his recap of best movies of the year so far. Let me know if you would like to see one of those from me. So yeah, I was there. And for whatever reason, this was one of the movies, well, not for whatever reason, so this is one of the movies that we actually ended up buying tickets for. So I can actually prove one step further. I saw this movie on January 26th at 6:30 at night, and I saw it with them. So the way that it works, we had press passes. You can get into a lot of things for free, especially press screenings, and you can get into the public screenings for free, but obviously if they sell out and you don't get a good placing in line, you're kind of running the risk of not making it in. So we bought about 10 tickets separately for different movies that we thought were going to be really good or kind of fit into the schedule, which honestly came in clutch a lot of the time. Some of the best movies I saw were ones I ended up having tickets for, but still really cool experience. Got to see like so many movies for free, but it is still an incredible investment, you know, making it out to Utah and everything. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there before anybody's like, "Wow, you're stealing this story from someone." No, I was there. This is also my story. So yeah, we're waiting in line for this movie, and suddenly someone starts coming around asking for ID. And we're like, okay, so that's kind of setting the tone for what this movie is. Because at that point, all we really knew was that it was directed by the same person who did The Babadook. We hadn't really looked into it. We hadn't checked what other people were saying. There were some whispers about people who had seen it at the Venice Film Festival. That's pretty much all we knew. So, you know, they were like texting people being like, "Yo, they're asking for ID. Like, make sure you have something on you that's like government issued ID, because they're carding people." And we were so confused. And even like Art and Alina, who had been to film festivals before, were like, this isn't a thing. This doesn't happen. So then we finally make our way into the theater, and usually before the screening starts, whoever is the theater head, somebody like all these different theaters and auditoriums are run by people, whoever the manager or whoever is like the most important will come out and say something. And, he comes out, says his stuff, and then says also, this movie has a lot of, is very graphic in nature. There's a lot of, very harsh imagery. We have counselors on site for anybody who might need it, either during or after the movie. And we all kind of laugh. But the guy's like, no, seriously, they're here. And we, like I said, we thought it was funny. We thought it was like a stunt, and maybe to an extent it was a stunt, but then the movie started and we were like, wow, okay, no. So just to kind of throw it out there, The Nightingale is the story of a young Irish convict. This was back when Great Britain would send all of their convicts to Australia, and that's just kind of where they were. And as they were there, they would obviously be pushing out, the native Aboriginal communities there. They'd be pushing them out of their normal place of living and scattering and displacing them, obviously. And the whole thing is basically a brutal revenge plot against one of the British soldiers that had been kind of like in charge of her. And that's the most basic way I can put it without giving too much away, but I almost feel like I have to just really warn people that yes, this is the most brutal movie I've ever seen, where the brutality isn't the point. There's a lot of movies out there like A Serbian Film and Green Inferno and all those really messed up movies that honestly they exist purely to gross you out with that imagery, to bother you with that imagery. That is the purpose of those films. The purpose of this film isn't to just put a bunch of really gross things on screen and that be the point of it. It's using that to set up a level of nothing to lose in the character. And it's just this unrelenting, brutal portrayal of this story where it turns into the things that, obviously the people who think they are the most civilized, being the British officers, are actually significantly more savage than the people that they see as lesser than them, like the convicts and the, native Aboriginal people that they've been displacing by setting up these prisons. And when I say unrelenting, it really is unrelenting, especially for like the first 15 minutes of the movie. Things just happen and you are waiting for horrible things to happen, and then it ends up being like so much worse than you could possibly imagine. And then it kind of hits its Hereditary moment. It's like moment where something happens that you're just kind of like, and it immediately just, not that you're not already at this point snapped in and uncomfortable, but it just really just, everything shifts in an instant moment. And it was like just before that happened and everybody was like, oh my God, I think I know what's coming. That's when you started getting people leaving, to the point that one woman in our row, we were sitting in the balcony area, one woman in our balcony area was trying to get out so quickly, and she was holding her mouth and she's trying to get out so fast. She almost fell over the balcony trying to get out because she was tripping over other people. Like the stuff that was happening on screen was just so brutal and so obviously resonated with her personally that she couldn't handle it and had to vacate that quickly. And obviously there was a few other people that trickled out with her. I'm assuming, I saw a few people leave from the bottom. I'm assuming there's some people we couldn't see because obviously the balcony would have been above where they were that also left. And it was in that moment that I was like, okay, I'd like to think that I'm a pretty well-adjusted individual and like I don't necessarily need the counselor, but I could see why someone else might. And I can honestly say I've never experienced that in a movie ever before in my life. I know I've seen people walk out because they've been annoyed. I've seen people walk out at the end of movies saying that something was dumb. I've seen people be incredibly uncomfortable by what they're watching on screen. I've seen people maybe bring out kids that were probably way too young to be in a movie theater out of certain movies, but I've never seen somebody run out of a movie because they were so disturbed by what they were seeing on screen. And again, I just really want to clarify that this isn't in a way that it's supposed to be gratuitous in the same way that like the horror genre does, whether you have your Hostels and you have like your Human Centipedes, where it's just literally, we're just trying to put a bunch of really messed up things on screen and then you guys can rally behind that any way you want. This is just a very, very brutally real account of something that's almost similar to Ari Aster when he puts certain things on screen. It's uncomfortable because of how realistic you could find it being, but even more grounded than that, but still just so brutal and punishing, and it just kind of turns into this whole crazy survival story where it's both emotional survival and physical survival, and just that one thing that's keeping you going, and you don't care about yourself, but you just need to complete that one goal that you set out to do. Our friends saw it in another showing where they actually had to stop it because somebody passed out, but I'm pretty sure that was more to do with like the heat in the theater that they were in, but it's that alone is also some pretty good publicity. This is also one that when I talk about it and some of my like younger stream viewers are like, oh, I want to see that. And I'm like, no, If you are not 17 years old, I do not believe that you have the emotional capability to handle this movie. Please do not watch it. This is not something that's fun to watch because it's so crazy. It's just brutal and harsh. Now, obviously, something this graphic is going to get a lot of mixed reviews. You have a lot of people being like, oh my God, like the fact that it's like so, it went so far, maybe it went too far, but then like you get these payoffs later in the movie that are incredible. You have a lot of people saying, it's like, no, just the fact that you're trying to tell a story where you're trying to call it accurate doesn't give you the right to put this kind of stuff in film. But as far as I can tell, it is releasing this week into theaters. I don't know if it'll release where you are, but might be worth checking out if you're someone who feels like they can handle that. But it's probably something you should look into before you watch it, just to see if it's something that you might be able to handle, because it is unrelenting, it is brutal, and it might not be for everyone, but I think at the same time it's almost hard not to recommend it because of how much of an impact it had on everybody that watched it, on the people that I watched it with, and it was just crazy. Like I said, I've never seen somebody run out of a movie theater like that. So that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. Again, that was The Nightingale. I might end up doing a video where I just talk about the best movies that I've seen so far this year. I know I'm a little bit late because it's basically August now, so we're officially 7 months into the year, but whatever. We are getting into that season where some of the really good Sundance movies are releasing. Like I think The Farewell is in theaters right now, which I would definitely recommend. We actually saw The Farewell right after Nightingale, and it was just such a relief to have something just a little bit more light and just heartwarming after something so brutal. But yeah, let me know if you guys have managed to catch it. I know it has played at a few film festivals, so let me know if you guys have caught the movie. If not, are you interested in watching it? But thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all later.